Get on your knees and beg, Omega." Soraya's blood dripped onto the marble floor as her sister Pervine circled her like a vulture, the Luna crown glittering on her head. "Tell the whole pack how worthless you are. Tell them you're nothing but a servant in this house. Do it, little sister. Do it now." Soraya's lips trembled, not from fear, but from the fire building in her chest. A fire that had been smoldering for 17 years. She lifted her eyes. And in that moment, the entire throne room felt the temperature drop. "I will kneel for no one," Soraya whispered. "Especially not for a Luna who stole her crown." The gasp that swept through the room was nothing compared to what happened next. From the shadows of the great doors, a figure emerged. The Alpha's son. The most powerful wolf in 3 territories. The man every she-wolf dreamed of claiming. He walked past Pervine as if she didn't exist. He stopped in front of Soraya. Then, Rostam, heir to the Blood Moon throne, dropped to his knees. "Forgive me, my queen," he said. "I should have come sooner." What happened next changed the fate of every wolf in the kingdom. And I need to tell you the whole story. But before I continue, I have a small request. If you're watching this right now, do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me which city you're watching from so I can send you a virtual hug. I love reading about where my listeners are from. And while you're at it, hit that follow button so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, this story is going to take you places you never expected. The revenge Soraya takes. It's going to leave you breathless. Now let me take you back to where it all began. The night Soraya was born, the moon disappeared from the sky. Every elder in the Akhtar pack remembered it. The darkness that swallowed the stars, the silence that fell over the wolves, the way the wind stopped as if nature itself was holding its breath. Her mother, Tomine, had screamed through 17 hours of labor, gripping the sheets until her knuckles turned white. But when the midwife finally placed the tiny, squirming baby in her arms, Tomine's scream turned to a sob. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The baby's eyes were open. Newborns didn't open their eyes. But this one did. And they were gray. The pale, silvery gray of morning mist. The color of an Omega's eyes. In the world of wolves there were ranks. Alphas ruled with strength and power. Betas served as loyal warriors and advisors. And Omegas were the lowest. The servants. The forgotten ones. To be born an Omega in an Alpha family was a curse. Shame. A stain on the bloodline. And Soraya, daughter of Alpha Farak and Luna Tomine, was the first Omega born to their family in 300 years. Her older sister, Pervine, was only 4 years old when she first learned that her baby sister was different. She remembered her mother crying, her father's face hardening into stone, the way the pack members whispered behind their hands whenever they passed the nursery. "Why doesn't anyone love her?" little Pervine had asked her nanny. "Because she's broken, child," the nanny had replied. "She was born without power. She'll never shift. She'll never have a wolf. She's just empty." Pervine had stared at her baby sister through the bars of her crib. And something dark had taken root in her heart. By the time Soraya was 5, she understood what she was. The other pups wouldn't play with her. The mothers would pull their children away when she approached. At pack gatherings, she was made to sit in the corner, far from the fire, far from the warmth, far from everyone. Her own mother couldn't look at her without flinching. "Why do you cringe when I try to hug you?" Soraya asked one evening, her small hands reaching up toward Tomine. Tomine stepped back. "Because touching you makes me ill, child. Can't you feel it? The absence in you. It's unnatural." Soraya's hands dropped to her sides. She was 5 years old, and she had just learned that her own mother found her revolting. That night, she cried herself to sleep in the servants' quarters, because at some point, her father had decided she didn't deserve a room in the main house. She was an Omega. She belonged with the staff. But Pervine thrived. At 4, Pervine had her first shift, a beautiful silver wolf with eyes like emeralds. The entire pack had celebrated for 3 days. Alphas from neighboring territories sent gifts. Her name was sung around bonfires. She was everything their parents wanted. And she never let Soraya forget it. Omega! Pervine would call across the courtyard, making sure everyone could hear. Fetch my breakfast. Omega! My shoes are dirty. Lick them clean. Omega! Come here and let me practice my claws on your skin. What's that? It hurts. Pain is the only thing you're useful for. Year after year, the abuse continued. Scratches turned to scars. Slaps turned to punches. And the words cut deeper than any claw ever could. You should have been drowned at birth, Pervine hissed one night, cornering Soraya in the wine cellar. That's what the old packs used to do with defective pups. I asked father why he didn't drown you, and you know what he said. Soraya stayed silent, pressing her back against the cold stone wall. He said he wanted to keep you alive as a reminder of what happens when the moon curses a bloodline. You're not his daughter, Soraya. You're his warning. And Pervine had laughed, a cruel, tinkling laugh that haunted Soraya's nightmares for years. But even in the darkest dungeons, flowers can grow. And Soraya grew in ways no one expected. While Pervine trained with warriors and attended alpha balls and batted her eyelashes at every powerful wolf who visited their territory, Soraya worked. She cleaned. She cooked. She scrubbed floors until her fingers bled. But she also listened. The servants talked freely around her, as if she were invisible, and Soraya absorbed every word. She learned about politics, which packs were allied, which were at war, which alphas could be trusted and which would stab you in the back for a handful of silver. She learned about history, the great battles, the ancient treaties, the old magic that most wolves had forgotten. She learned about herbs and healing, which plants could cure a fever, which could stop bleeding, which could put a grown wolf to sleep for 3 days. And she learned about the Blood Moon Pack. The Blood Moon Pack was legendary. They ruled the northern mountains, a territory so vast and powerful that even her father spoke of them with reverence and fear. Their alpha, Merdad, was said to be ruthless but fair. A warrior who had never lost a battle. A leader who commanded respect from every corner of the wolf kingdoms. But it was his son who captured the whispered fantasies of every she-wolf in existence. Rostam. Named after the great hero of ancient Persia, Rostam was everything a future alpha should be. Strong, fierce, intelligent, and devastatingly handsome, if the rumors were true. Every unmated she-wolf dreamed of becoming his Luna, including Pervine. I will be Luna of the Blood Moon Pack, Pervine announced at dinner one night, her voice dripping with certainty. When Rostam sees me, he'll fall at my feet. No wolf could resist my beauty. Soraya, standing in the corner holding a pitcher of wine, said nothing. But her eyes flickered to her sister's reflection in the window. Pervine was beautiful. That was undeniable. With her cascading dark hair, her emerald eyes, her curves that seemed sculpted by the moon goddess herself, she was every artist's dream. But Soraya had seen behind the mask. She knew that Pervine's beauty was a weapon. Trap. A glittering poison that hid the rot beneath. And someday someone else would see it too. The invitation came when Soraya was 17. Alpha Merdad of the Blood Moon Pack was hosting a grand gathering, a summit where all the powerful packs would come together to discuss territorial agreements, trade alliances, and, of course, potential matings for the unmated wolves. It was the social event of the decade. And every alpha family was expected to attend. You're not coming, Tomine said flatly, not even looking at Soraya as she sorted through Pervine's gowns. An Omega at the Blood Moon gathering? We'd be the laughingstock of every pack. But the invitation said the entire family. Soraya began. You are not family, her father interrupted, appearing in the doorway. His gray eyes, the same gray eyes Soraya had inherited, were cold and distant. You are a servant. You'll stay here and clean the house while we're gone. Soraya's chest tightened. Father, I just thought. You don't think, Alpha Farrak snapped. That's the problem with your kind. You have no wolf, so you have no instincts, no power, no worth. Learn your place, girl. Before someone teaches it to you the hard way. He swept away, and Tomine followed, already calling for Pervine to try on her final dress selection. Soraya stood alone in the hallway, her hands trembling at her sides. She had spent 17 years being told she was nothing, worthless, stain, curse. And for 17 years she had believed it. But something had shifted inside her that day. A crack had formed in the wall she'd built around her heart, not to let pain in, but to let something else out. She didn't know what it was yet, but it was waking up. The night her family left for the Blood Moon territory, Soraya did something she had never done before. She disobeyed. She found an old traveling cloak in the servants' quarters, deep blue, worn but clean, and she covered herself from head to toe. She borrowed a horse from the stables. And under the cover of darkness, she followed the caravan of carriages heading north. It took 3 days of hard riding to reach the Blood Moon Mountains. When she finally saw the pack's fortress, her breath caught in her throat. It was carved directly into the mountain, a sprawling structure of black stone and iron gates that seemed to touch the clouds. Torches burned along every walkway, casting flickering shadows against the rock. And wolves patrolled the perimeter. Massive wolves, bigger than any she had ever seen, their eyes glowing gold in the darkness. This was power, true power. And Soraya felt like an ant standing at the foot of a giant. She slipped in through a servant's entrance, her cloak hiding her face, and made her way to the great hall where the gathering was being held. What she saw there stole her breath completely. The hall was enormous, a cathedral of stone columns and crystal chandeliers, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Hundreds of wolves filled the space, dressed in their finest silks and leathers, drinking wine and laughing and dancing. And at the head of the room, on a raised platform, sat the Blood Moon royalty. Alpha Murdad was everything the rumors promised, a massive man with a salt and pepper beard and eyes that seemed to see straight through your soul. His Luna sat beside him, a beautiful woman with silver hair and a gentle smile. But Soraya's eyes were drawn to the figure standing behind them. Ostam. He was... There were no words. Broad-shouldered, with hair as black as midnight and eyes that burned like molten copper. His jaw was sharp, his cheekbones high. His lips full and slightly parted as if he were about to speak. He wore a simple tunic of black and gold, but there was nothing simple about the way he carried himself. Every movement spoke of power, control, danger. And right now, those copper eyes were scanning the crowd with an expression of profound boredom. He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else, Soraya murmured under her breath. He always looks like that, a voice said beside her. She startled, turning to find an older servant woman watching her with kind eyes. First time at a Blood Moon gathering. Soraya nodded carefully. Yes. Thought so. You're staring at Prince Rostam like he's made of starlight. The woman chuckled. Every young she-wolf does. But I'll give you some advice, child. That one isn't looking for love. He's been promised to a dozen different women from powerful families, and he's refused every single one. His father is furious. Says he'll never produce an heir at this rate. Why does he refuse them? The woman shrugged. No one knows. Some say he's waiting for his fated mate, the one the moon chooses for him. Others say he's too arrogant to settle for anyone less than perfect. And others. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Others say there's a prophecy. That the future Luna of the Blood Moon pack will be someone unexpected. Someone everyone has overlooked. Someone with gray eyes like the mist and power hidden in her bones. Soraya's heart stopped. Gray eyes. She pulled her hood tighter, suddenly terrified that someone would see her face. Just a legend, of course, the servant woman continued. Anyway, enjoy the gathering. And stay away from the Akhtar family. I hear that daughter of theirs is a vicious piece of work. The woman disappeared into the crowd, leaving Soraya frozen in place. Prophecy. Gray eyes. Hidden power. Couldn't be. Could it? There she is. The most beautiful she-wolf in the kingdom. Pervine's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd like a knife, and Soraya ducked behind a pillar, watching from the shadows. Her sister was making her grand entrance, wearing a gown of blood-red silk that clung to every curve. Rubies dripped from her ears and throat. Her dark hair was piled high on her head, threaded with gold. She looked like a queen. And she walked straight toward the blood moon platform, her eyes fixed on Rostam with predatory intensity. "Prince Rostam," Pervine purred, dipping into an exaggerated curtsy. "I am Pervine of the Akhtar pack. I have traveled so far to meet you." Rostam's expression didn't change. "Many have traveled far. But none are quite like me, I assure you." Pervine straightened, letting the firelight catch the shimmer of her gown. "I am the most powerful she-wolf in my pack. Fastest, the strongest, and, if I may be bold, the most beautiful." A ripple of whispers went through the crowd, some impressed, some scandalized, some amused. Rostam looked at her for a long moment. Then his eyes moved past her, scanning the room, as if he were looking for something or someone else. "Beauty without substance is an empty vessel," he said finally. "Power without compassion is a dangerous weapon. Tell me, Pervine of the Akhtar pack, what do you offer besides your face and your fangs?" Pervine's smile faltered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "I offer you everything a Luna should be. Partner, a companion, a mother for your heirs. What more could you want?" Rostam's eyes darkened. What more indeed? He turned away, ending the conversation, and Soraya saw something flash across Pervine's face. A crack in her perfect mask. Embarrassment. Rage. Humiliation. Her sister had just been dismissed in front of the most powerful wolves in the kingdom. And Soraya knew with cold certainty that someone would pay for that humiliation. The gathering continued for 3 more days. Soraya stayed hidden, sleeping in the servants' quarters and keeping to the shadows during the festivities. But she couldn't stay away from the great hall entirely. Something kept drawing her back, a pull she couldn't explain. On the second night, she found herself standing on a balcony overlooking the gardens, breathing in the cold mountain air. "You're not supposed to be up here." She spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. Rostam stood in the doorway, his copper eyes reflecting the moonlight. He had shed his formal attire for a simple shirt and trousers, and his hair was slightly disheveled, as if he had run his fingers through it in frustration. He looked tired and human and impossibly beautiful. "I'm sorry," Soraya stammered, pulling her hood tighter. "I didn't know this was restricted." "It's not." He stepped closer, and she noticed he was barefoot, his feet silent on the stone. "I just haven't seen you before. And I've seen everyone at this gathering. Multiple times. So, who are you?" Soraya's mind raced. She couldn't tell him her name. If he found out she was an Omega, if he found out she was Pervine's sister. "No one important," she said quietly. "Just a servant. Servants don't have gray eyes." She froze. Rostam was closer now, close enough that she could smell him. Pine and wood smoke and something darker, wilder, that made her pulse race. "I've read the old texts," he continued, his voice low. "There's a prophecy, a Luna with eyes like winter mist. Hidden power. A soul that burns brighter than any alphas. That's just a legend. Is it?" His hand reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. She couldn't. His fingers brushed the edge of her hood and gently pushed it back. Her face was revealed in the moonlight. Pale skin, sharp features, and those gray eyes that had marked her as worthless her entire life. Rostam sucked in a breath. "It's you," he whispered. "What?" "The pull. The reason I couldn't sleep. The reason I've been searching every face at this gathering, looking for something I couldn't name." His eyes burned into hers. "My wolf has been going insane since you arrived. And now I know why." Soraya's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I don't understand." "You're my mate," Rostam said, and the word seemed to reverberate through her entire being. The moon chose you for me. Can't you feel it? And in that moment, Soraya realized she could feel it. Pull. The warmth spreading through her chest. The sense of coming home to a place she had never been. But then reality crashed back down. That's impossible, she said, stepping back. I'm an Omega. Have no wolf. Have no power. I'm nobody. My own family won't even acknowledge me as theirs. Rostam's expression shifted. You're from the Akhtar pack. Yes. Pervine's pack. Soraya flinched. She's my sister. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Then Rostam did something she never expected. He laughed. Not a mocking laugh. A genuine, surprised, almost joyful laugh that seemed to burst out of him against his will. The moon goddess has a wicked sense of humor, he said. Pervine spent all evening trying to seduce me, and her own sister, her Omega sister, is my fated mate. This isn't funny, Soraya said, her throat tightening. You can't mate with me. Your father would never allow it. My father would. I don't care what our fathers allow. Rostam stepped forward again, and this time there was no hesitation in his movements. I have waited 23 years for you. I have turned away every powerful she-wolf in every territory because none of them felt right. And now I know why. You're the one. You've always been the one. Tears pricked at Soraya's eyes. You don't know me. You don't know what they say about me. I'm defective, broken, empty. Stop. His voice was gentle but firm. I can feel your soul through our bond. And there is nothing empty about you, Soraya. Nothing broken. Whoever told you those lies? They were wrong. About everything. He reached out and took her hand. The moment their skin touched, warmth flooded through her. A warmth she had never felt before. Acceptance. Safety. Love. Come with me, Rostam said. Leave with me tonight. I'll take you to Blood Moon territory. And you'll never have to bow to anyone again. For one shining moment, Soraya almost said yes. But then she thought of Pervine. Of her parents. Of what they would do when they discovered their worthless Omega daughter had stolen the prince they had been trying to sell their other daughter to. The punishment wouldn't just fall on Soraya. It would fall on everyone. I can't, she whispered, pulling her hand away. Not yet. There are things I need to understand. Things I need to face. Rostam's jaw tightened. Then let me come with you. No. If you arrive at my pack with me, they'll know something has changed. They'll find a way to use it against us. She took a shaky breath. Give me time. Let me figure out what this means. And then I'll find my way back to you. How much time? A year. Too long. 6 months then. Rostam stared at her, clearly warring with himself. His wolf was probably screaming at him to claim her right then and there. But he held back. 3 months, he said finally. I'll give you 3 months to return to me. And if you don't, I'm coming to find you myself. And I don't care if I have to tear your pack apart to get to you. Soraya nodded, her heart aching. 3 months. He kissed her then, a soft, desperate press of his lips against hers that left her trembling. And when he finally pulled away, his copper eyes were blazing with emotion. Don't forget me, he said. Never, she promised. And then she fled into the night. 3 days later, Soraya was back at the Akhtar pack house, scrubbing floors as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. She could feel it now, the bond stretching between her and Rostam, thin as a spider's thread but strong as iron. When she closed her eyes, she could sense his presence, distant but constant, a warmth in the back of her mind. She wasn't alone anymore. She had never been alone. But her family's cruelty hadn't changed. Omega! Pervine's voice screeched through the house, and Soraya flinched, nearly dropping her brush. Her sister stormed into the kitchen, her face twisted with rage. She was still wearing the traveling clothes from their return journey, her hair disheveled and her eyes wild. You little rat, Pervine spat, advancing on Soraya. You think I didn't notice? You think I couldn't smell you at that gathering? Soraya's blood ran cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Liar. Pervine grabbed a fistful of Soraya's hair and yanked hard, forcing her head back. I smelled you on that balcony. I saw you talking to him. To Rostam. I wasn't. Don't you dare lie to me again. Pervine's claws extended, pricking against Soraya's throat. I know something happened between you two. Everyone noticed how distracted he was after that second night. Everyone noticed how he kept looking for someone in the crowd. Someone who wasn't me. Pervine, please. What did you do? Pervine's voice dropped to a deadly hiss. Did you spread your legs for him? Is that it? Did you offer yourself like the worthless whore you are? Nothing happened. Something happened. Pervine's claws dug deeper, drawing blood. And you're going to tell me what, or I swear by the moon goddess, I will skin you alive and hang your pelt on my wall. Let her go. A new voice cut through the kitchen, and both sisters froze. Alpha Farrak stood in the doorway, his face unreadable. For one wild moment, Soraya thought her father had come to protect her. But then she saw his eyes. Cold. Calculating. Interested. What's this about Rostam? He asked slowly. Pervine released Soraya's hair, adjusting her composure. The little Omega snuck into the gathering, father. She spoke to Prince Rostam privately. Something happened between them. Faraka's eyes shifted to Soraya. Is this true? Soraya said nothing. Her throat was bleeding. Her heart was pounding. And she knew, that anything she said would be used against her. Answer me, Farrak commanded, his alpha voice vibrating through the room. And despite everything, Soraya felt something rise up inside her. Something that had been sleeping her entire life. Something that did not bow. Yes, she said quietly. I spoke to him. And nothing. Talk. That's all. Farrak studied her for a long moment. Then a slow, ugly smile spread across his face. Well, he murmured. Perhaps you're not entirely useless after all, daughter. Soraya's stomach dropped. If Prince Rostam showed interest in you for whatever reason, we can use that. Pervine will become Luna of the Blood Moon Pack, one way or another. And you, little Omega, are going to help us make that happen. No, Soraya breathed. No. Faraka's eyebrows rose. You don't get to say no. You are property. My property. And you will do exactly as I command. He turned to Pervine. Send word to the Blood Moon Pack. Tell them we are coming for an official visit. Tell them we have something of value to offer the young prince. Pervine's smile was vicious. With pleasure, father. And Soraya realized with dawning horror that she had just become a pawn in a game she didn't fully understand. The next 3 weeks were torture. Soraya was locked in her room, given only bread and water, and visited only by Pervine, who took great pleasure in describing the plan. Here's what's going to happen, little sister. Pervine purred through the bars of Soraya's window. We're going to bring you to Blood Moon territory as a gift for the prince. Father has convinced Alpha Murdad that you're a rare Omega, trained in healing arts and herbcraft. They're going to accept you as a servant in the pack house. And then, Pervine's smile widened. And then you're going to make Rostam fall in love with me. Soraya stared at her. What? You're going to whisper in his ear. Plant suggestions. Tell him how wonderful I am, how perfect I'd be as his Luna. Every time you see him, you're going to talk about me. Praise me. Make him want me. He won't. He will. Because if you don't. Pervine leaned closer, her eyes glittering with malice. I will kill everyone in the servants' quarters. Starting with old Kaveh, who taught you to read. And then little Simin, who braids your hair when no one is looking. And then every single person in this house who has ever shown you kindness. Soraya's blood turned to ice. You wouldn't. Try me. And Soraya knew in that moment that her sister absolutely would. Pervine straightened, adjusting her sleeve. We leave in 3 days. Pack your things. Oh wait, you don't have any things. How convenient. She laughed and walked away, her heels clicking on the stone. And Soraya sat in the darkness, her mind racing. She had 3 days to figure out how to escape this trap. 3 days to warn Rostam. 3 days to save herself, and everyone else who might get caught in the crossfire. 3 days. It wasn't enough. But it would have to be. The journey to Blood Moon territory was brutal. Soraya was transported in a cage. An actual iron cage, fitted into the back of a covered wagon like she was livestock. Pervine had insisted on it. "We can't have the little Omega running off before she served her purpose," she'd said sweetly. For 5 days, Soraya bounced along mountain roads, her body bruised from the constant jostling, her wrists raw from the chains that bound her. But she didn't break. Through the bars of her cage, she watched the landscape change, from the rolling hills of Akhtar territory to the jagged peaks of the Blood Moon Mountains. She watched the sky shift from soft blue to the deep gray of approaching winter. And she felt, with every mile, the bond with Rostam growing stronger. He was close now. So close she could almost touch him. Hold on, she thought, sending her hope through that invisible thread. I'm coming. The Blood Moon pack house was even more imposing up close. Soraya was dragged from her cage, her chains clanking, and paraded through the great iron gates like a prisoner of war. Wolves stopped to stare. Whispers followed her like shadows. An Omega. Look at those gray eyes. Is that the Akhtar servant? Why is she in chains? Alpha Farrak marched ahead, his head held high, with Pervine at his side looking every inch the future Luna in a gown of midnight blue. They were received in the great hall, the same hall where Soraya had first seen Rostam 3 weeks ago. But this time she was on her knees. "Alpha Merdad," Farrak said, bowing low. "Thank you for receiving us." Merdad sat on his throne, his expression unreadable. His Luna was beside him, and behind them, Rostam. His copper eyes found Soraya immediately, and what she saw there made her heart crack wide open. Rage. Pure, unbridled volcanic rage. But he didn't move. He stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back, every muscle in his body coiled like a spring about to snap. He was waiting, watching, calculating. "You've brought an Omega in chains," Merdad said slowly. "Explain." Farrak smiled his oily smile. "A gift, my lord. She is skilled in herbs and healing, trained from childhood to serve. We thought she might be of use in your pack house. We don't chain our servants. A precaution for the journey only, I assure you." Farrak gestured, and one of his guards stepped forward to unlock Soraya's chains. The iron fell away, and Soraya forced herself to stay kneeling. Not because she wanted to, because she needed to play this game carefully. One wrong move, and everything would unravel. "Rise," Merdad commanded. She rose, keeping her eyes down. "Look at me." She looked up, and the moment her gray eyes met his, Alpha Merdad went very, very still. "Gray eyes," he murmured. "Like winter mist. A birth defect, nothing more," Farrak said quickly. "She has no wolf. No power. Just the eyes." But Merdad wasn't listening. His gaze had shifted to his son, and something unspoken passed between them. Then Rostam stepped forward. "I will take responsibility for her." Every head in the room turned. Farrak's smile faltered. "My prince. The Omega. I will take responsibility for her placement and well-being during her time in our pack." Rostam's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "She will report directly to me." "That's most unusual," Pervine said, her voice sugary with confusion. "Surely a servant should." "Did I stutter?" Rostam's eyes cut to Pervine, and she flinched at the ice in them. "I said I will take responsibility. Unless you wish to question my decisions in my own pack house." Silence. Pervine opened her mouth, then closed it again. Farrak's face was a mask of barely contained fury, but he dipped his head. "Of course, my prince. We are honored by your interest." "Good." Rostam turned back to Soraya, and for just a moment, Just a heartbeat. His expression softened. Come with me. She followed him out of the great hall, feeling the weight of every stare on her back. And when the doors closed behind them, Rostam finally spoke. 3 months, you said. His voice was rough. You said you needed time. Things changed. Clearly. He stopped walking, turning to face her in the empty corridor. Tell me everything. Now. So she did. She told him about Pervine overhearing them on the balcony. About her father's plan to use her as a tool. About the threats against the servants. About the cage and the chains and the bruises that still ached beneath her thin dress. By the time she finished, Rostam's hands were shaking. I'm going to kill them, he said quietly. Every single one of them. No. Soraya. No. She stepped closer, daring to take his hands in hers. If you kill them now, it will start a war. Your father will have to respond. Other packs will choose sides. Wolves will die. Innocent wolves who have nothing to do with this. I don't care. Yes, you do. She squeezed his hands. You care because you're a good leader. Because you understand that power comes with responsibility. Because you're not like them. Rostam's jaw clenched. So what do we do? Just let them continue their scheme. Let Pervine play her games while you suffer. No. Soraya's eyes hardened. We play our own game. And we win. How? She smiled. A small, dangerous smile that she had never shown anyone before. By giving them exactly what they want. And then taking everything. Over the next several weeks, Soraya executed her plan with patience and precision. She played the role of the obedient Omega perfectly. She bowed to Pervine in public. She praised her beauty to anyone who would listen. She whispered to Rostam about her sister's wonderful qualities, whenever others could overhear. And meanwhile in private, she and Rostam built something real. They met in secret. In the library, in the gardens, in hidden passages that only the Blood Moon family knew about. They talked for hours, sharing their hopes and fears and dreams. Rostam told her about the pressure he faced as heir, the expectations, the loneliness, the constant feeling that he was performing for an audience that would never be satisfied. Soraya told him about her childhood, the cruelty, the isolation, the slow realization that her worth wasn't determined by her wolf but by her soul. And somewhere between the stolen moments and whispered confessions, they fell deeply, irrevocably in love. But they also plotted. Rostam introduced Soraya to his mother, Luna Anahita, who was immediately suspicious of the Akhtar family's motives. Together, the three of them began investigating the darker aspects of Pervine's past. What they found was damning. Pervine had been involved in several accidents over the years. Rivals who had mysteriously died, allies who had turned up missing, servants who had been silenced permanently. She had bribed, threatened, and manipulated her way to power at every turn. And most horrifying of all, she had poisoned Soraya's wet nurse when Soraya was just an infant, ensuring that the Omega baby would never receive the nutrients that might have awakened her dormant wolf. She knew, Anahita said, her voice trembling with rage as she read the old healer's notes they had uncovered. She knew even then that you were special, that you were a threat to her future. So she poisoned you from birth. Soraya's hands were shaking. All these years I thought I was broken. And it was her. It was always her. Rostam pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. We'll make her pay. I swear to you, Soraya. She will answer for every crime. And the moment of reckoning came sooner than any of them expected. The Luna selection ceremony. It was a tradition as old as the Blood Moon pack itself. A formal event where the Alpha's heir would finally choose his mate, cementing the future leadership of the pack. Alpha Murdad had been pressuring Rostam for months to make a decision. And finally Rostam had agreed. I will announce my Luna at the next full moon, he declared to the pack. Every eligible she-wolf is invited to attend. Pervine was practically vibrating with excitement. This is it, she gloated to Soraya in private, grabbing her arm hard enough to bruise. You've done your job well, little sister. Rostam has been so attentive lately. Always asking about me, always seeking my company. Tonight he's going to choose me. And when he does, I will finally have everything. Soraya kept her face blank. I hope you get exactly what you deserve, sister. Oh, I will. Pervine smiled her venomous smile. And then you're going back to Akhtar territory. Father wants you returned to the servants' quarters. Apparently, some of the pack members have been asking too many questions about our gift to the Blood Moon Prince. She swept away to prepare for the ceremony, leaving Soraya standing in the corridor. But Soraya wasn't afraid. Not anymore. The great hall was filled to bursting. Every noble family, every pack leader, every wolf of importance had gathered to witness the Luna selection. Candles blazed from every surface. Musicians played soft, elegant melodies. Wine flowed freely. And at the center of it all, on a raised platform, stood Rostam. He looked magnificent in a formal tunic of black and gold, his copper eyes scanning the crowd with an intensity that made hearts flutter and knees weak. Soraya stood in the back, dressed in the plain gray dress of a servant. No one paid her any attention. She was invisible, exactly as she had been her entire life. But not for much longer. Alpha Murdad raised his hand, and the hall fell silent. My son, he announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. The time has come. Choose your Luna. Rostam nodded solemnly. I have searched long and hard for the right mate, he said, his voice strong and clear. I have met many she-wolves, beautiful, powerful, ambitious. Some have offered alliances. Some have offered wealth. Some have offered their bodies and their devotion. Pervine, standing near the front in a gown of scarlet silk, preened visibly. But none of them, Rostam continued, had what I was truly seeking. A murmur rippled through the crowd. What I was seeking, Rostam said, was truth, courage, compassion. A soul that burns brighter than any alpha's fire. A heart that has been beaten down but never broken. His eyes found Soraya in the crowd, and Soraya felt everything else fall away. What I was seeking, Rostam said, descending from the platform, was hiding in plain sight, dismissed by everyone, abused by her own blood, told she was worthless, powerless, empty. He stopped in front of her. The entire hall was staring. But she is none of those things. Rostam's voice cracked with emotion. She is the strongest person I have ever known. And tonight, I am not choosing a Luna. He dropped to his knees. Gasps erupted throughout the room. Tonight, Rostam said, I am acknowledging my queen. Soraya's vision blurred with tears. Rostam. Soraya of the Akhtar pack, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You are my fated mate. The moon chose you for me, and I choose you freely. Will you stand beside me? Will you rule with me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that you were never, ever worthless? The silence in the hall was absolute. And then, no! Pervine's scream shattered the moment. She rushed forward, her face twisted with fury, her claws extended. You can't do this. She's nothing. She's an Omega. She's my servant. She is my mate, Rostam said, rising to his feet, placing himself between Pervine and Soraya. And you will show her respect, or you will face the consequences. Consequences? Pervine laughed hysterically. You think I'm afraid of you? I have been planning this for years. Do you know what I had to do to get here? Who I had to destroy? Who I had to poison? Anahita's voice cut through the chaos. The Luna stepped forward, holding a stack of papers, the healer's notes they had found weeks ago. We know what you did, Pervine, Anahita said coldly. We know about the wet nurse, the rivals, the servants. We know everything. Pervine's face went white. You poisoned Soraya from birth to suppress her wolf. You murdered anyone who threatened your path to power. And you intended to manipulate your way onto my son's throne. Alpha Murdad rose from his seat, his expression thunderous. Is this true? I. Pervine looked around desperately, seeking allies, finding none. Even her own father was stepping back, distancing himself from the scandal. It's true, Soraya said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. For 17 years I believed I was broken, defective, curse on my family. But the only curse in my bloodline was Pervine herself. She made sure I would never have a chance to discover my true power. She made sure I would suffer every day of my life. Soraya stepped forward and something extraordinary happened. Her eyes began to glow. Not gray anymore but silver. Bright, burning silver, like the moon itself had taken residence in her gaze. But she made a mistake, Soraya said, her voice resonating with newfound strength. She thought that breaking my body would break my spirit. She thought that suppressing my wolf would suppress my soul. She was wrong. Around her, the air began to shimmer. Wolves throughout the hall felt it. A pressure, a presence, something ancient and powerful awakening after a long, long sleep. I am not an Omega, Soraya said, and her words seemed to echo from everywhere at once. I am something far older. Something that hasn't been seen in 1,000 years. Something the prophecy spoke of. She turned to Rostam, and he was looking at her with wonder, with awe, with absolute love. I am the Silver Queen, she said. And this is my pack now. Light exploded outward from her body, washing over everyone in the hall. When it faded, Soraya stood transformed. Her plain gray dress had become a gown of silver moonlight. A crown of stars glittered on her brow. And behind her, finally manifesting for the first time in her life, was her wolf. But it wasn't an ordinary wolf. It was massive, twice the size of any alpha. Its fur was pure white, shot through with veins of silver. Its eyes burned with celestial fire. This was no Omega. This was something ancient, sacred, divine. Pervine fell to her knees, trembling. No. No, it's impossible. For you, perhaps. Soraya looked down at her sister without hatred, without rage. Only cold, final judgment. For me. It was inevitable. She turned to the assembled wolves, her voice ringing clear. I do not seek revenge. I seek justice. Pervine and her father will be stripped of their titles and exiled from these lands. Their crimes will be recorded and remembered. And their pack, my former pack, will be given a choice. Follow a new, just leadership or disband. Alpha Farrak sputtered. You can't. I can. Soraya's eyes flashed. And I have. Alpha Merdad, do you accept this judgment? Merdad was staring at her with something close to reverence. I do, Your Majesty. Then let it be done. Guards moved forward, seizing Pervine and Farrak. Their screams of protest echoed through the hall as they were dragged away. And when they were finally gone, when the chaos had settled, Rostam stepped forward and took Soraya's hands in his. That was incredible, he breathed. I didn't know I could do that. Neither did I. He laughed softly. I thought I was getting a Luna. Instead, I got a goddess. Does that bother you? Are you joking? His copper eyes sparkled. It makes me the luckiest wolf in existence. He kissed her then in front of everyone. A deep, claiming kiss that left no doubt about their bond. And when they finally broke apart, the entire hall erupted into cheers. The Silver Queen had returned, and the world would never be the same. 1 year later, Soraya stood on the balcony of the Blood Moon Fortress, watching the sun set over the mountains. So much had changed in a year. The Akhtar pack had been reformed under new leadership. Kaveh, her old teacher, had taken the alpha role and was building a community based on kindness rather than cruelty. Pervine and Farrak had been exiled to the far eastern territories, where they lived in obscurity, their power stripped, their names forgotten. And Soraya. Soraya had found her place at last. As Luna. No, as Queen of the Blood Moon Pack, she had worked tirelessly to establish new laws protecting the weak and vulnerable. Omegas were no longer treated as servants but as valued members of the community. Orphaned pups were given homes. Healing centers were built in every territory under their influence. The Silver Queen was beloved by all. And tonight she had news. You're smiling. Rostam appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. That's either very good or very bad. Very good. She turned in his embrace, looking up at him with shining eyes. I'm pregnant. Rostam went completely still. What? We're having a pup. She laughed at his stunned expression. Possibly two. The healer couldn't quite tell yet. Two. His voice was faint. Twins. It runs in my family, apparently. He grinned. Surprise. And then Rostam, the most powerful alpha in 3 territories, the feared warrior, the stern leader, burst into tears. I love you, he said, pulling her close. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you too. They stood there as the stars emerged, 2 souls who had found each other against all odds, building a future brighter than either could have imagined. Because that's what happens when you refuse to let the world define you. That's what happens when you find the courage to embrace your truth. That's what happens when you remember that the darkest nights always give way to dawn. And somewhere, high above them, the moon shone silver and bright. Watching. Proving. And that, my beautiful listeners, is the end of Soraya's story. But it doesn't have to be the end of our time together. If this story made you feel something, if you laughed or cried or cheered when Rostam dropped to his knees, then I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now. Tell me which city you're watching from so I can send you a virtual hug. I love reading every single comment and knowing that people from all over the world are experiencing these stories with me. And if you haven't already, hit that follow button. Because I have so many more stories like this one. Tales of revenge, redemption, forbidden love, and wolves who refuse to be broken. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're not worthless. Someone who's been told they're less than. Someone who's waiting for their own silver crown. Until next time. Remember, you are never as powerless as they want you to believe.